Something extraordinary happened on this planet in the distant past. So extraordinary that it wiped nearly every trace of civilization, knowledge, and history from the face of the Earth. What was it? How did it happen? And why does modern science so often dismiss even the possibility of such a catastrophe? There have been cataclysmic events in Earth's past, which at one point altered the course of life and civilizations. John M. O'Hara, Geological Catastrophes, 2002. The few remaining clues, scattered across continents and buried in the sands of time, whisper of an advanced world that once was. In the words of physicist Dr. Paul Laviolette, one cannot simply dismiss ancient legends of world-destroying catastrophes as mere myths. These accounts were recorded and preserved with an urgency that suggests they were real, experienced events. Recently discovered submerged cities and ancient artifacts hint at once thriving civilizations lost to time. Except for small clues upon which we were now stumbling, we would remain blissfully unaware of this lost chapter. As we uncover ancient clues from forgotten civilizations, we come to realize that the world we think we know is just a fragment of a much bigger story. Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995. Indeed, from the ruins of Tiahuanaco in Bolivia, where engineers today still struggle to explain the precision of the megalithic stonework, to the puzzling Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer thousands of years ahead of its time, impossible artifacts have been surfacing across the world. Archaeologist Dr. Alexander Marshak observed, "There are objects from the past that should not exist according to our historical models." In many cultures, there exists a sense that ancient peoples possessed knowledge and technology far beyond what we credit them with today. Archaeological discoveries continue to challenge our understanding of their capabilities. Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995. The Antikythera mechanism is not an isolated case, but part of a greater number of discoveries suggesting a level of knowledge about astronomy, mechanics, and even computing that we have long failed to attribute to the ancients. Richard L. Thompson, God and Science, Divine Causation and the Laws of Nature, 2010. We are increasingly finding that ancient knowledge of mechanical systems, including that of the Egyptians and Greeks, appears more sophisticated than once believed. It's not so far-fetched to think they could have developed technology on par with our own. Christopher Dunn, The Lost Technologies of Ancient Egypt, 1998. How do we reconcile these anomalies with the traditional story of human progress? The theory taught in school, that civilization began in primitive ignorance and gradually climbed upward in an uninterrupted ascent, is presented as an unquestionable fact. However, even mainstream scientists have begun to question this hypothesis. The theory of evolution, introduced by Darwin, became the cornerstone of modern biology. Yet the way it has been presented in schools often overlooks the nuances and controversies surrounding it. Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene, 1976. The story goes that we ascended from savages to our present civilized state by slow, uninterrupted development. However, evidence suggests that human evolution did not follow a single, smooth path, but involved periods of setbacks and sudden leaps in development. History teaches that human societies progressed linearly, from primitive beginnings to advanced civilization, but recent findings suggest that this progress has been anything but linear. Jared Diamond, Guns, Germs, and Steel, 1997. In his book Darwin's Dangerous Idea, Daniel Dennett also discusses how Charles Darwin's theory became ingrained in our education system to the point where it was often presented as an irrefutable fact. These are just a few examples of many. The myth of inevitable progress has been ingrained in Western thought, but more recent scholarship challenges the idea that evolution is always an upward march. Stephen Jay Gould, The Structure of Evolutionary Theory, 2002. The truth is that evolution has always been only a theory. The concept of evolution as a theory has always been central to the debate in scientific circles. It is a model that explains the evidence, but it is not proven beyond all doubt. Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion, 2006. Even Charles Darwin himself admitted On the Origin of Species, a fair result can be obtained only by fully stating and balancing the facts and arguments on both sides of each question. Yet mainstream academia rarely entertains alternative explanations. The gaps in the fossil record remain vast, and as evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould acknowledged, the extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as the trade secret of paleontology. The ancient texts of nearly every civilization tell a different story, one not of a slow climb, but of a fall from a past golden age. Hindu scriptures speak of the 4 yugas, cycles in which human civilization rises and falls. The concept of a golden age, where humanity lived in harmony with gods or nature, is central to many ancient cultures. In the end, we have to ask whether this mythological past could have been based on a reality now lost to time. Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, 1988. Across different cultures and continents, there are remarkably similar stories of an original paradise, a golden age followed by a fall from grace, knowledge, or spiritual enlightenment. Could this shared narrative be an echo of a true historical decline? Richard Heinberg, The End of Growth, 2011. The Greeks, through Plato, recount the tale of Atlantis, an advanced world lost in a sudden catastrophe. The Sumerians and Babylonians describe ages of greatness followed by destruction. Even the Bible echoes this theme in Genesis and the Great Flood. As the philosopher René Guénon pointed out in The Crisis of the Modern World, the idea of progress as a linear ascent is a recent invention. Ancient civilizations knew of cycles, rises and falls of culture, long before modern history books attempted to impose a one-directional path. The evidence for these ancient advanced civilizations grows stronger with each passing year. The pyramids of Giza, for example, remain an enigma, so precisely aligned with celestial bodies that modern astronomers struggle to explain how primitive societies could have achieved such knowledge. As John Anthony West, an expert in ancient Egyptian science, once said, "Egyptian civilization did not start at the beginning. It was already old, and its knowledge already vast. The evidence suggests a lost predecessor. And then something happened, a cataclysm. A worldwide event so devastating that it obliterated almost all traces of the civilizations before it." In Worlds in Collision, 1950, Immanuel Velikovsky states, "Ancient legends and geological evidence both suggest that significant events in the distant past, whether comet strikes, massive floods, or volcanic eruptions, led to the downfall of entire civilizations. Such global disasters may have caused the collapse of a once thriving advanced world. The cataclysmic disasters that have punctuated human history, whether volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, or massive floods, may have played a more significant role in shaping the course of our development than we can imagine. The memory of such events seems embedded in the myths and records of ancient peoples." Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995. The Younger Dryas Impact hypothesis, first proposed by scientists Firestone West and Warwick Smith, suggests that a comet impact around 12,800 years ago triggered a global disaster. Their study concluded evidence of widespread fires, abrupt climate change, and mass extinctions at the Younger Dryas boundary indicates a catastrophic event of planetary proportions. Given the weight of evidence from multiple disciplines, archaeology, geology, and ancient texts, it is no longer possible to dismiss the idea that a cataclysmic event may have radically changed human history. Randall Carlson, Sacred Geometry and Catastrophism, 2016. If such an event wiped out an advanced civilization, it would explain why history appears to reset at various points, with new societies seemingly emerging from nowhere. Legends are usually based on a core of fact. Legends and myths, while often embellished over time, contain within them a kernel of truth, a historical event or experience that was passed down through generations. Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, 1988. For centuries, scholars dismissed ancient legends as mere folklore, colorful fables invented by primitive minds. Yet time and time again, modern discoveries have shown that myths often contain historical truths. The story of Troy, once thought to be pure fiction, was confirmed as real when Heinrich Schliemann uncovered its ruins in the 19th century. As historian Will Durant wrote in The Lessons of History, "A nation may pass away and leave only the memory of its existence, but the stories of science it has gathered up will endure forever." Myths are not mere stories, they are remnants of history preserved through oral tradition. Anthropologist Sir James George Fraser, in The Golden Bough, observed, "Folklore is a fossil of history. It preserves history in the guise of colorful tales." Folklore, much like archaeological layers, carries within it traces of historical events, real or imagined, that reflect the experiences of ancient peoples. The tales we dismiss as mere myth may contain grains of truth. Claude Lévi-Strauss, The Structural Study of Myth, 1955. Far from being mere fantasies, many myths recount actual past events, though over generations, details may have become distorted or forgotten. The Great Flood, for example, is not just a biblical tale, it appears in over 200 cultures worldwide, from the Sumerians' Epic of Gilgamesh to the Aztec and Hindu traditions. Can such a universal story be a mere coincidence? In The Atlantis Blueprint, Rand Flem-Ath and Colin Wilson argue, legends of a lost golden age and its catastrophic end are too widespread to be ignored. They suggest a forgotten episode of human history. Historians must begin to pay more attention to ancient traditions. As Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist at Boston University, stated in his study of the Sphinx, "It is time we recognize that our ancestors were neither primitive nor ignorant. Their myths and oral histories may be distorted over time, but they are based on something real." A lost chapter of human history. While empires rise and fall, the knowledge and discoveries they leave behind often have a far longer shelf life. The contributions of ancient civilizations, whether through mathematics, astronomy, or architecture, have shaped the modern world in ways we often take for granted. Carl Sagan, Cosmos, 1980. The collective testimony of all ancient races tells a strikingly similar story. Humanity's earliest history was not one of primitive survival, but of great intelligence and civilization. Legends from every corner of the world speak of a golden age, a time when humans possessed extraordinary knowledge, superior technology, and mental abilities far beyond what is typically attributed to early societies. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest texts known to humankind, describes the first ages as a time of immense wisdom and power, stating, "Men were divine, possessing abilities of the gods, but with time they fell from their stature." The same theme appears in countless sacred traditions. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, describes the first humans as possessing vast knowledge, able to see and know all things before they lost this ability. Plato, in Critias, recounts that the people of Atlantis lived in an advanced, highly structured society, possessing technologies and achievements that seemed almost miraculous. "O Solon, Solon, you Hellenes are but children. There is no old doctrine handed down among you by ancient tradition, nor any science which is hoary with age, and I will tell you the reason behind this. There have been and will be again many destructions of mankind arising out of many causes, the greatest having been brought about by earth fire and inundation." Dr. Richard Thompson, in Forbidden Archaeology, notes, "Ancient civilizations had access to sophisticated technologies and knowledge systems, which were inexplicably lost or erased from historical records. A civilization born fully formed. Unlike the conventional evolutionary model, which suggests a slow, gradual rise from savagery, ancient records suggest that the first civilizations were born fully developed. They did not stumble blindly into technology. Rather, they appear to have mastered metallurgy, architecture, and music in an astonishingly short time." The Book of Genesis states that early humanity, within just 6 generations, had already built cities, played complex musical instruments, and smelted metals. Genesis 4:21-22 explicitly names Jubal as the father of all those who play the harp and flute, and Tubal-Cain as the instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. Civilization, instead of progressing in small steps, seems to have appeared full-fledged as though handed down by an earlier, advanced people. Dr. Joseph Needham, Science and Civilization in China. Ancient Mesopotamian records, such as the Sumerian king list, further reinforce this concept. They speak of kings ruling for tens of thousands of years before a great flood wiped out their civilization. According to the Sumerians, the arts of metallurgy, writing, and city building were not inventions, but gifts from the gods, a phrase which many scholars now believe may refer to lost predecessors rather than deities. Evidence suggests that civilization may have existed in forms far older than the accepted historical frameworks, with technological advancements and societal structures appearing long before mainstream historians have posited. John N. Harris, The Dawn of Civilization. Our modern understanding of history often overlooks the possibility of ancient civilizations that existed before recorded history. Yet recent discoveries have begun to suggest that these ancient societies were far more complex than we ever thought. David Rohl, A Test of Time. The Bible, From Myth to History. In the grand sweep of history, the civilizations we now regard as ancient are merely the tip of the iceberg, with many civilizations before them lost to time or destroyed by natural cataclysms. David H. Kelly, Early Man and the Cosmos. Historians have often overlooked the importance of oral traditions, considering them unreliable. Yet these traditions are the lifeblood of ancient history, and they deserve our serious attention. Bruce Trigger, Understanding Early Civilizations, 2003. Lost Technologies of the Ancient World. The discovery of sites like Göbekli Tepe shows that our understanding of early civilization is far too simplistic, and that advanced societal structures may date back much further than traditionally accepted. Andrew Collins, Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods, the Temple of the Watchers, and the Discovery of Eden. The precision and complexity of ancient structures suggest that early civilizations possessed superior intelligence and technology. The pyramids of Giza, with their nearly perfect alignment to cardinal directions, remain an engineering marvel. The Great Pyramid is not just an enormous tomb. It is an astronomical observatory, a geodetic marker, and possibly something far more. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist at Boston University, argues that the Sphinx of Giza is at least twice as old as mainstream Egyptologists claim, based on the weathering patterns. The erosion of the Sphinx is not from wind and sand, but from water, suggesting it was built before the Sahara became a desert, at least 10,000 years ago. The Antikythera mechanism comprises more than 30 precisely cut bronze gear wheels, dials and pointers, held in a wooden box the size of a phone book, with a damaged inscription indicating that they formed a model of the cosmos. Its gear wheels remain unique among ancient discoveries, a fact that has generated much speculation among historians of ancient science as to the mechanism's purpose and designer. Andrew Robinson, History Today, Volume 67, Issue 9. X-ray scans of the mechanism revealed that it was a highly sophisticated analog computer designed to predict planetary movements with stunning accuracy. In The Hidden History of the Human Race, Michael Cremo and Richard Thompson argue, the problem is not whether ancient people had technology, the problem is our refusal to acknowledge that they did. Musical mastery and metalwork in the distant past. The idea that early civilizations played complex musical instruments is not speculation. It is confirmed by archaeological finds. The 40,000-year-old flutes found in Germany, made from bird bones, demonstrate a deep understanding of acoustics. Some of these flutes were tuned to the same pentatonic scales that we use in modern music. Anthropologist Jeremy Montague, in The Origins of Music, states, "Music is older than civilization itself. It was not primitive, but mathematically sophisticated from the start." The same is true for metallurgy. Archaeologists have discovered highly refined metal objects from the distant past that challenge our understanding of technological development. The famous Delhi iron pillar, which has resisted rust for over 1,600 years, shows an advanced understanding of metallurgy. Even older metal artifacts, found in Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, suggest that humans mastered smelting and metalworking long before historians previously believed. Dr. E. A. Wallace Budge, a leading Egyptologist, wrote in The Rise and Progress of Civilization in Egypt, "The early Egyptians possessed a high level of knowledge in metalworking. They produced bronze, copper, and gold objects of such purity and precision that even modern metallurgy struggles to explain their methods." A universal truth known to the ancients. All of this evidence suggests that ancient cultures were fully aware of their advanced origins. The idea of a lost golden age was not just an isolated myth, it was a universal memory recorded in sacred texts, oral traditions, and archaeological discoveries. The 19th century historian Ignatius Donnelly, in his groundbreaking book Atlantis, The Antediluvian World, wrote, "The traditions of nearly all ancient civilizations describe an age of great knowledge and power, followed by catastrophe." The sheer consistency of these accounts suggests they are more than mere myth. The time has come to look beyond the established narrative and explore the deeper mysteries of our forgotten history. Perhaps the greatest truth about our past is not that we are steadily progressing, but that we are rediscovering what was once lost. Thanks for watching.